you are not going to be able to modify your Harley Davidson any longer. Let's get into it. RevelatorAlf. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. So this video is all about the modification process of Harley Davidsons or any other motorcycle, actually any motor vehicle in the future, and are you going to be able to do it legally, and will you be prevented from doing so by the manufacturer themselves? Right, so let's just expand this a little bit. So in the UK here and around Europe, they've been toying with anti-tampering laws for motor vehicles, in that you cannot substantially change the vehicle from its original designation. It hasn't quite worked itself out yet, but that's what's been proposed for some time. In fact, in Europe, in mainland Europe, we've already seen this happening with non-standard exhausts. Motorcycles have been pulled over, some have been confiscated, or the riders have had to pay hefty fines when they've been caught with a non-standard exhaust on their motorcycle. And then this has been expanded to other components on the bike as well. If you go into somewhere like United States, for example, different states have different laws according to what parts can be on a motorcycle, and let's say California might be different to Arizona, for example. So there are always variations from country to country and within countries like United States that have different state laws. Okay, let's just talk about Harley Davidson themselves. If we consider the last 5 or so years, what have Harley Davidson been doing in particular with their motorcycles that they're selling? They're making it increasingly difficult for new owners of new motorcycles to make changes without any penalties. And what I mean by penalties in that, will it affect your warranty? And it's quite common knowledge now that if you make any modification to your engine, your drivetrain, within the first 2 years, within the warranty period, that will void your warranty. So you should not do it. You should not make any changes whatsoever. Now, yes, there'll be lots of people who say, well, if you use the Harley parts and the dealership does it, again, you're on very dodgy ground. With the 2021 motorcycles and above, they made changes to the ECM as well. So tuning companies will find it really difficult to catch up to make tuners that will be compatible with those bikes as well. Okay, they've come out with them now. However, for quite a long period, they weren't able to modify those bikes properly. They weren't be able to tune those bikes properly, or certainly with the same amount of scope as they had in the past. Harley Davidson themselves are making it more difficult for you, the owner, to modify your bike. Legislation around the world, it depends where you are, of course, may make it more difficult in the future to modify your bike. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave any of us? I suppose we've got to look at the trends. We've got to look at a company like Harley Davidson. They're saying to themselves, right, we produce a motorcycle and we produce our own parts. What we don't want is for the buyers of our motorcycles to take their motorcycles elsewhere to have work done, but they also don't want their motorcycles to be fitted with other components. So they don't want you and I to fit S&S parts, let's say, to name just one manufacturer, onto our motorcycle, because guess what? They're losing money. They want you to fit Harley Davidson Screaming Eagle parts. They don't want you to fit anything else. So there's compatibility issues per se, but there's also commercial interests from the company themselves. They're saying, actually, we just want you to buy Harley Davidson and keep Harley Davidson parts on that bike the whole time, regardless of whether there's actually any detrimental effect by fitting aftermarket parts to your bike. So it's a commercial limitation that the company are putting on you, the owner, even though there is the mindset and the mentality to make these modifications to your bike. Now, let's just fast forward this right to the present day. The latest motorcycle that Harley Davidson have produced, the Nightster, the Sportster Nightster, it was ladled on in their promo video that they want people to modify it. What they didn't tell you, as we all know, is if you make modifications, it's going to void your warranty. So what modifications are we making? Modifications that come from the Harley Davidson catalogue. And you'll find this with many manufacturers now, and it's going to happen more and more. The modifications that you make will void your warranty unless it's coming directly from them and if they okay the work themselves. So I always say this: if you're buying a brand new motorcycle of any manufacturer, just be very careful what work you have done within the first 2 years or within the warranty period, whatever that is. Even if you have an extended warranty, you've got to be very careful of the wording of that warranty as well. Also, be very careful of where you're buying the motorcycle, where you're riding it, and where you want to ride it in the future. Let's say if you're crossing international borders, you're going on the Grand Tour, because your vehicle, your motorcycle, may be legal where you are, but it may not be legal elsewhere. Why are things changing? Well, there's the environmental impact, the emissions control, noise pollution, congestion easing, let's say. Everything that you can think of, they're throwing at motor vehicle use just to limit what we can do, but limit the impact that we can have on other people and the environment, let's say. Whether you agree with that argument or not, that's the thinking, that's the rationale. So companies like Harley Davidson, they've already started to limit what you can do with your bike when you're within their warranty period. Now, after that, it's going to come down to legislation where you are, whether you're going to have limitations imposed upon you to say what kind of handlebars you can have, what kind of exhaust you can have, what kind of tune that you can have on your bike. All these things will become relevant as you own your bike and you want to make modifications, but you may not be allowed to, depending on how things develop over the next few years, what the popularity and the impact of electric vehicles will be, and also what the economic position will be and the political will of the time as well. It really depends. You might have one politician or one political party, let's say, who are very pro motorcycles or pro motor vehicle use, and they're less pro on the environmental impact. You might get another political party that's very green in their persuasion and they go heavy-handed on motor vehicle use. It really depends. But right now we're already feeling the effects of limitations on modifications by the manufacturer, and also what a dealership can give you in terms of modifications, which will not affect your warranty, let's say, but also in the coming years we may be subject to ever increasing tightening legislation on the kinds of modifications that you can do. It's not here yet. It's definitely been spoken about, certainly here in the UK and certainly around Europe and other parts of the world as well. But it's something to bear in mind. It's something that we as motor vehicle users, as motorcycle riders, we are in the cusp of these new bikes that are going to be sold, and they're almost going to have a restriction on them to say you cannot change anything on this bike. You can only replace like for like. And that's so that they can keep that motorcycle on the road and still within the emissions control, within the environmental impact that it was designed to have. Harley Davidson, Honda, Suzuki, any manufacturer, they're going to be moving in this direction to comply with emission standards, with regulations, with legislation of where that bike is going to be sold, let's say whatever market it's going to be sold, but also they're going to be looking to control their own market and their own motorcycle use and how spare parts can be afforded to that bike as well. Effectively, they want you to buy their product and they want you to keep on buying more of their products. It kind of makes sense from that point of view. But for us as riders, as car drivers, let's say, who want to make modifications, it's a bit of a letdown really, isn't it? But anyway, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, like and share. Check out the website RevelatorAlf.com, and I'll catch you again. Ta-da!